Earmagination, a renaissance in audio adventure.
Earmagination Playhouse is dedicated to providing employment opportunities to all members of the theater community who have experienced the sudden loss of venues in which to practice their skills by providing an ongoing series of recorded audio dramas produced especially for podcasts. We are proud to present The Taking, a 10-episode audio drama based on true events and written by Barry Bowman. On March 22, 1803, while anchored in Nootka Sound on the west coast of Vancouver Island, the Boston, an American trading ship, was attacked by a group of Muwachid warriors. 25 of her 27 crewmen were massacred. 20-year-old John Jewett and one other survivor became two of some 50 slaves for 2.5 years under the rule of powerful chief Maquinna. What follows is both an adventure tale of survival and an unusual perspective on the First Nations of the northwest coast of Vancouver Island. Here now is part 1 of The Taking by Barry Bowman.
This is my story. It is an account of grief, distress, and hardship, with a degree of such satisfaction that I can ill express, that I once quit a land to which I resolved nothing should tempt me to return. You bloody well nearly took my ear.
Oh, balderdash, I cleared it by a farthing. Remember I told you, little brother, you don't attempt foolish bravado unless you can deliver on it. Here, get up. You're embarrassing the family.
If I
name.
hadn't slipped on that wet grass, Frank, I suspect you wouldn't be so self-possessed.
For now, you should concentrate on forging the work to which you were set. No more swordplay for a while.
Yeah, you two. What in the devil's name are you doing? I can't leave you two for a moment before you start acting like imbeciles. Where are the bellows you were supposed to mend?
Well, I started to do just that, Father, but Frank wanted to...
Aye? You were the one who insisted on showing
Yes,
me
that's
those
right, but you
swords.
started...
Enough, you hear? Stop this squabbling at once. Frank, you should know better. At your age, indeed. And you, John, I should have insisted that you continue your instruction at Donington. Well, you insisted on learning the trade, so by heaven, get on with it.
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
And those sabres, they are not your property. You may have forged them, but they are to go to the 52nd Light Infantry. And a dozen more. Get to it.
Yeah, he's right, you know. He always hoped you'd stay on and continue your studies.
Oh, I know. He's always meant well by me. I know he was disappointed that I didn't carry on my apprenticeship with Dr. Mason.
Oh, such eminence.
Yes, but, brother, I care less about medicine each time I come home. I see the men in Father's shop, the workmen, and I know this is what I want to do. Don't you see? I'm not a surgeon. Perhaps I would have been more fortunate had I gratified Father's wishes than he to sacrifice them for mine. I know I can make him proud by becoming the best I can be. I'm well contented with my occupation.
So you should be.
Hull, being one of the best seaports in England, and a place of great trade, my father had there full employment for his various workmen, particularly in vessel work. This, naturally, leading me to an acquaintance with the sailors on board some of the ships, and the many remarkable stories they told me of their voyages and adventures. Thus passed my 4 years that I lived in Hull, where my father was esteemed by all who knew him as a worthy, industrious, and thriving man. At this period, a circumstance occurred which afforded me the opportunity I had for some time wished.
Ah, John, come in. You're just in time. May I present Captain Salter, master of the Boston out of Massachusetts? We've been discussing business.
Oh, well, I won't disturb you then. Good to meet you, Captain Salter.
No. Come, sit. I want you to meet Captain Salter here. He's applied to us to do the smith work on the Boston before setting off to America.
How do you do, lad?
Very well, sir.
Many of the cargo items on board will be used as trade with the Indians on the northwest coast of America. Furs, skins, whatnot.
Yeah, on to China. After that, and from thence back home to America. That means she must be very seaworthy. Needs repairs, alterations, all necessary for such a long journey, you know.
Well, yes, my father, as well as myself, have the most favourable opinion about your country, sir. It seems an excellent field for the exertion of energy and commerce.
Yeah, you're quite right, lad. Now that there's peace between England and France, we can all get along with much more comfort and safety, eh? Edward, from what you tell me, why shouldn't young Master John here join us? I dare say I do need a fellow like you. I need an expert smith for an armourer. What do you say?
Oh, really, Captain? He's still a boy.
It would give me great pleasure. That is, if my father will give his consent. I for a long time have wished for a chance to visit foreign countries, particularly America. I've been told so many fine stories.
You're both mad? No, Captain Salter. Sir, I appreciate your kind words about my son. I can't argue with you that he's a fine armourer. I am anxious for him to get a leg up in life, yet I can't listen to this proposal. No, out of the question.
The wages are much higher. The living is cheaper.
I might do much better in America, Father.
I have to think on it. I'll have an answer for you in a few days. Good day to you, sir.
Father, if I only...
Please, son, not now, please. I need time to think.
My father, being solicitous to give me every advantage in his power of well establishing myself in my trade, he at last gave up his objections.
And you say you have good expectations for John, once back in Boston, to find a worthy trade then?
I do, sir.
Would you permit me to spend a moment with my son, privately, Captain?
Spend all the time you need, sir. I have to tend to matters myself with all, and I see there's a pipe of wine that needs careful handling.
Now listen, boy. You're on your way, and heaven only knows if we'll ever again meet. So take care, lad, and remember this. Be honest, and watch your manners, and you won't fail. And above all, remember, you have a father, a mother, a brother, and sister who love you and feel a strong interest in your welfare.
I know, Father, and I'll write to you by the first opportunity that should offer to England, from whatever part of the world I might be in, especially when I arrive again in Boston. I confess my neophyte status as a mariner was quite evident during the first few days, but it was of short continuance. On my recovery from the distressing effects of seasickness, I found myself in uncommonly fine health and spirits, and went to work with alacrity at my forge.
Oh, here, boy. Grab that halyard and haul. No! Bloody hell! Belay that, you lubber. That one. Thompson, show the boy.
Here, lad. Hold on this.
Hold. Downhaul.
Hold!
Together we grappled with the rope, pulling as one, with the rest of the crew going about their duty. Finally, we saw the huge sails rising to the spars of the masts overhead, and there it was. I now understood the job and continued my pulling. I even attempted what I hoped would be a look of brotherhood toward the others, fellow crewmen and all that. I must thank you.
Aye?
I say, I must thank you for your help this morning. My name's Jewett. John Jewett. Well, what do you, do here on this boat, ship?
I'm the sailmaker. I keeps the sails in tip-top shape, patching holes, repairing the sails when needed, or when they needs to be replaced. I keeps the crew's clothing repaired, and I keeps to myself.
Oh, I see. Well?
You want repairs, you tell the bosun, and he tells me.
Well, Mr.
The mates call me John. We'll keep it at that.
Yes, of course. John, if I can return the favor, just...
Listen, I wasn't in favor of having some Johnny Raw join this ship in the first place. Keep your distance, boy, and don't expect me to help you again. And I don't need no help from you. Never.
October 1st, 1802. The Boston had landed. We entered the harbor at St. Catharines, a small tropical community on the coast of Brazil, several official-looking people waving us in. The Captain Salter seems a most excellent seaman, and preserves the strictest order and discipline on board his ship, though he is a man of mild manner and conciliating manners, and seems disposed to allow every indulgence to his men, not inconsistent to their duty. We had a pleasant and favourable passage of 29 days to this island of St. Catharines. The captain has determined to stop here for a few days to wood and water.
Well, lad, here we are. Had enough sea for a while?
Yes, sir. That is, I shouldn't mind a bit of time to get my land legs again. But I'm very excited to reach our destination, too.
In due time, boy, in due time. We'll need a full supply for our voyage that far to the northwest coast. It's best to furnish ourselves now, rather than have to stop at the Sandwich Islands. We'll take in wood, water, fresh provisions, that sort of thing. Try one of them delicious oranges. You won't relish their likes in England, I warrant. Oh, excuse me. Here's duty calls. The governor's about to join us.
I confess, I watched in amusement as the protocol unfolded below. But what I appreciated the most was taking in a long savouring of all the wonderful smells of this idyllic little paradise. Hello! How long is our stay here?
4 days.
I'll relish every moment. Cape Horn, December 25th, 1802. Hard to put pen to paper. A huge storm has caused our ship to be tossed mercilessly as gigantic waves crushed over her deck. Imagining the vast space between us, I frequently wish to end things right here than endure any more sea trouble. We were now in much more pleasant water. The weather was calm as the Boston now made her way northward. As we hailed a whaling ship passing by, I was greeted by the sight of a school of porpoises coming towards us, like a number of small black waves. Then, a pod of whales off in the distance. This seemed to hearten the rest of the crew members, who returned to their work with collective gusto. Immediately after passing Cape Horn, all our dangers and difficulties seemed to be at an end. The weather being fine and so little labour necessary on board the ship, the men soon recovered from their fatigue and were in excellent spirits. We now took the trade winds, during which we enjoyed the finest weather possible. For the space of a fortnight, we were not obliged to reeve the topsail or to make tack, and so light was the duty and easy the life of the sailors during this time, that they appeared the happiest of any people in the world.
Music! Captain's orders!
We had on board a fine band of music, which, on Saturday nights, when the weather was pleasant, we were accustomed to be regaled, the captain ordering them to play for several hours for the amusement of the crew. And in this manner, with a fair wind and easy weather, we pursued our voyage to the northwest. March 12th, 1803. We have arrived at Nootka Sound. The Boston has sailed through a narrow entrance to the Sound, past large outcroppings of towering rock and forested shoreline.
Tire up at the village, Captain?
No, Mr. DeLuisa. Steady on for another 5 miles. Go northward to the village. Don't want to risk any molestation or interruption from the Indians. Take her into Friendly Cove.
Aye, aye, sir. Straight ahead. Make for Friendly Cove.
Take some men to find a good place to secure anchor.
Aye, aye, sir. Begin sounding.
We
Lower
shall
bow.
beat to quarters!
She's 12 fathoms, Captain. Pretty bottom.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuisa. She's apt to wind. Secure her by a housing to those trees.
Aye, aye, Captain. You men, grab that line.
What now, sir?
Well, we'll resupply our stores with water and take in more wood.
Will we not be trading for furs?
No, boy, there are seldom much furs to trade at this place, and not fully the season. People here are generally very friendly, and it's more prudent to stock up here than among the more ferocious natives north of here. We'll be expecting a visit from the chief and his boys tomorrow. You might want to select some of your nicest knives and tomahawks to offer as gifts.
As Captain Salter had predicted, we were indeed visited practically to the hour the next day. A good number of natives arrived, paddling slowly towards us. One individual sat regally in the middle of the front canoe. We were no doubt now in the presence of their chief, Maquinna, a strongly built man, striking in appearance, and covered in red, his eyebrows painted black. His long black hair fastened in a bunch at the top of his head, and was strewn with some sort of white powder and what appeared to be duck down. His men were all dressed in cedar cloth robes fastened in the middle, the crew all lined up along the railing to watch the arrival, Captain Salter standing at the top of the gangway, ready to greet them. Maquinna stepped from his canoe and made his way to the ship's deck.
Greetings, Chief.
Greeting to you. I find you well.
As can be, I assure you.
I'm much happy to see you.
Come. Are you hungry?
Yes.
Then come. We'll have biscuits and molasses. You understand?
Very sweet. Good.
Bosun, bring a bottle of rum, please. The chief and I are going to visit a while.
Aye, aye, sir.
He speaks English?
Oh, a fair bit. The English and American ships what trades to the coast have given Maquinna the few words he needs to know. He gets along, and he likes his wee bit of rum, too. He calls it Inuksihak. Tongue fire.
Right, lads, put your fingers out. We got work to do.
And so we immediately set about getting our water casks in readiness, and the next and 2 succeeding days, part of the crew was sent on shore to cut pine timber and assist the carpenter into making it into yards and spars for the ship, while those on board were employed in refitting the rigging, repairing the sails, and so forth. I kept myself busily employed in repairing the muskets, making knives and tomahawks, and doing such ironwork as was wanted for the ship. Meantime, more or less of the natives came on board of us daily, bringing with them fresh salmon, with which they supplied us in great plenty, receiving in return some trifling articles. Captain Salter was always very particular before admitting these people on board to see that they had no arms about them, by obliging them indiscriminately to throw off their garments so that he felt perfectly secure from any attack. March 15th, 1803. If I had possessed any gift of prescience, I would mark McQuinna's arrival that day with certain foreboding. Yet, not blessed with these talents, his arrival was unremarkable, and as usual he was accompanied by several of his elders. Captain Salter greeted them at the top of the gangway.
Come aboard. Bring your people. Mr. DeLuisa, would you please escort our friends to the mess?
The natives were very attentive to me. Iron weapons and tools of almost every kind were in much request among them. Whenever they came on board, they would crowd around me to see in what manner I did my work. And in this way we became quite familiar, a circumstance which would become of great importance to me, sooner than I had thought.
My friend, I wish to honor you with a toast. This is our tradition of respect. You see? Respect, yes? You offer us many salmon, sohar, many sohar. That means salmon in their language.
We pleased you like.
And Chief, there are many more salmon that you can bring us. Better than salt fish, eh? What about quack, quack, quack?
You mean duck? Wild duck?
Well, what about that, man? He's going to hunt some duck for us. And I will give you something in return. Let me see. Yes. I do have something for you. Just the thing, too. How about this double-barreled fowling piece? I give this to you in exchange for your wonderful hospitality. Here, take this, yes? You shoot duck for us. You keep, yes? Here, my friend. Lovely, no?
Thank you.
Wilson, prepare the galley for some duck tonight.
Aye, aye, sir.
Hey, Captain, I see McQuinna. He's on his way back. Looks like he bagged some fine game with that old gun you gave him.
Lovely. Bring him aboard. McQuinna, what a wonderful sight. Looks like you got a kit worth there. Let's have a good look. This is wonderful, old friend. These will make several fine meals, I warrant. I can't thank you
Captain,
enough.
you might want to look at this. It appears one of the hammers is
What?
broken.
Here, let me see that. McQuinna, the gun.
Bad.
No, bad? No, by heaven, not bad.
Gun not good.
That gun is one of my prized possessions. I gave it to you because you idiot! How could such a terrible thing happen? Mr. Jewett! Mr. Jewett!
Yes, sir.
Jewett, this fellow has broken my beautiful fowling piece. Can this be mended?
Yes, sir. I believe it can be done. It's a Manton flintlock. I'm sure I can find something to repair it. It's a fine piece.
Yes, I'm aware of that, Jewett. This gun cost me £10, and this bloody imbecile has now gone and ruined it.
I don't understand.
Oh, you understand perfectly well, McQuinna.
Since my presence in the room occurred about the time Captain Salter's tirade was reaching fever pitch, I couldn't help noticing. McQuinna said nothing. It was obvious he understood all too well the meaning of the reproach. His face reflected the hurt and disrespect, and he kept putting his hand to his throat and rubbing his chest. March 22nd, 1803. Crew making final preparations to sail. Natives arrive as usual with yet more salmon. Salter seems composed and jovial and accepts the fish with pleasure. McQuinna has arrived accompanied by a considerable number of his men, who, after going through the customary examination, were admitted to the ship.
Mr. DeLuisa, ready a boat to prepare to Free Cove. Take some crew, bring back some more salmon. The chief and his elders are dining with me.
I had returned to my bench below decks and was engaged in the work of repairing the captain's fowling piece. After a moment I heard sounds outside, of the crew arriving in the boat. I couldn't help hearing a few large thumps above deck, as though someone had tripped and fallen. More bangs as the boat was hauled up. Those particular noises unmistakable, for I had heard the same each evening since we had departed. This time I also heard talk among the men. Then a scuffling sound and confusion. At this point, and curious, I put down my tools and climbed up to open my hatch. As I peered over the hatchway to the main deck, a native appeared right above me. He grabbed my hair while swinging a tomahawk. He practically lifted me right up as he swung, but God's mercy had intervened, and the savage's hand slipped on my hair ribbon, and I fell, but not before I felt a glancing blow on my forehead from the tomahawk, and I fell from the hold, back down into the steerage, stunned. Blurred images and incomprehensive sounds continued in my head as I struggled to keep conscious. Then shouts and yells from the natives above. My head was bleeding as I battled for consciousness. Terrible nightmarish images, muffled sounds teemed through my mind. I then attempted to return to the hold, but found it locked. Let me up! What's happening? Please, someone! Suddenly the hatch opened, and standing above me was a blurred image of a man, a native. As my vision began to clear, I saw it was Maquinna himself.
Come, you come now.
I groped my way up, almost blinded with the blood flowing from my wound. Maquinna must have seen the injury, for he helped me up on deck and motioned for me to sit. He then turned and held my face.
I speak.
I hardly heard his words as I was aghast at the terrible spectacle of my murdered fellow men, hacked to pieces, lying around the deck, blood everywhere, and surrounding me were 6 warriors, covered in blood.
You, what are you called?
Jewett. John Jewett.
John Jewett, you listen. You not say no. You say no, daggers come.
What? I don't understand.
I see you make daggers, many weapons. I see you make these things. I am Maquinna. You make these things for my people. Now you, John Jewett, you slave.
Slave?
You my slave. You say yes. Make daggers, knives, and fix muskets for me. You live. You understand? You live. You say no, you die.
Yes, I will do this.
Now you kiss hands.
I understand hands. Yes, here.
Now, feet.
Feet?
Feet.
Of course, feet.
Maquinna, spare your life.
During this time I began to shiver with the cold, or perhaps loss of blood, or fear. I knew not. I was barely aware of my surrounding and felt myself strangely disengaged from everything around me. I recall Maquinna went into a cabin and returned with the captain's greatcoat and some rum. Draping the coat over my shoulders, he told me to drink some of the rum, which I did, most gladly.
Come.
He led me up to the quarterdeck. I was stunned and horrified to see the dismembered heads of every one of the crew, all arranged in a line. Oh, merciful being.
Now you tell Maquinna who is.
It's the captain. Captain Salter. Oh, God. One by one, the heads were brought to me for identification. Some I couldn't identify because they were so mangled. The most horrid sight presented itself that ever my eyes witnessed. The heads of our unfortunate captain and crew, to the number of 25, were all arranged in a line. I now discovered that they had been massacred. After getting possession of the ship, the savages had broken open the arms chest and the magazine, and, supplying themselves with ammunition and arms, sent a party on shore to attack our men who had gone there to fish. My poor comrades' throats had been cut with their own jackknives while they were busy in hoisting up the boats. In the scuffle, the captain was thrown overboard and dispatched by those in canoes. Following the removal of these ghastly remains, I knew not where, nor envied any man who might, Maquinna asked for my silk handkerchief.
John, give Maquinna cloth.
Maquinna placed a tobacco leaf on my head, then wound and secured it with the handkerchief.
Now, John Jewett, help move boat.
Not being my nature at any time during this nightmare to refuse, I complied by ordering the natives to cut the cables while sending some aloft to loosen the sails. This they did in a halting fashion, no one knowing exactly what they were doing. However, in spite of this, the ship was underway.
You, tell my warriors, you make boat go up beach.
What? Run her right up on the beach? But...
Yes. You make boat go up on beach.
Very well. Please ask everyone to hold on. With a sickly, prolonged scraping and great shudder, the Boston, the ship I had signed on with a year before, now awkwardly keeled over in the dark, aground on the sand near the beach. The inhabitants of the village, men, women, and children, came running down to the beach, drumming and shouting. Some held lighted torches.
John, come to my house.
While the village huts perched along the beach in random order here and there, a vacant or burnt-out skeleton, McQuinn's was big and filled with people. Immediately upon our arrival, we were both swarmed with women, 9 in all, expressing their sympathy and stroking my head.
My wife, ya tintla no.
Very nice to meet you, ya tintla no.
She are Coma, which mean queen. This, Wata, other wife.
Your other wife?
Wife, Wata.
Oh, I see. Your other wife.
Yes, other wife.
Oh, I understand.
Kenika, Sitala, Wikimak, Hetia, Minite, Chakwania.
As I respectfully nodded to each of his 9 wives, hundreds of McQuinn's warriors outside chanted and cheered at their success, several even motioning throat-cutting and beheadings. The cheers then turned to shouts for my death. Over all this, McQuinna raised his hands for silence. Through his language, small pieces I could understand, he refused to kill me, explaining how he had promised to spare my life, and how useful I can be repairing and making arms. The disgruntled warriors finally moved away and went about their business, leaving me wondering if he was morally against murder or was simply being resourceful. Meanwhile, as I was distracted by the commotion outside, I didn't see a young boy of about 11 years old quietly walk over to me. The boy was fascinated seeing a white person for the first time. Since the boy was standing there, I instinctively patted him on the head. The boy was both surprised and delighted at this.
This is my son. Name, Satsat Koksis. Time now. Son go to sleep. Son say he want you. Sleep with son. You sleep. You now be safe with my son. No daggers.
Yes, of course. Splendid idea. I lied down and the boy happily lay beside me. To sleep at that moment was impossible, though I feigned it. But through both anxiety and pain from my wounds, I slept not that night.
That was part 1 of The Taking, an original play by Barry Bowman. Heard in this episode were Danny Saritsky as John Jewett, John Critch as Jewett's father, Jeff Leard as Frank, James Leard as Captain Salter, and Simon Steeldeer as McQuinna. The Taking was written and directed by Barry Bowman. We hope you enjoyed this premiere presentation from Ear Imagination Playhouse, as the story of John Jewett's adventure continues.
The Taking, Episode 2.
He must die.
One of the men from the ship had been found alive on board.
I kill men on ship now.
No, please, you can't just...
My people say kill
please,
him.
I think that man is my father.
The Taking, coming next on Imagination Playhouse.
Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Taking on Ear Imagination Playhouse.
Ear Imagination, a renaissance in audio adventure.